Well, Halloween is a few weeks away, but one little girl is celebrating the holiday early, along with Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, and her birthday. Eyewitness News reporter Savannah Louie shares her heart-wrenching story to explain.
Like most children, 3-year-old Aria loves her Play-Doh. But despite what this looks like, she's not your typical toddler.
With her transplant, she had sores in her mouth. She couldn't talk. It hurt her to do anything. We almost put in a feeding tube at one point, and she's just been through so much.
That's because Aria has a rare form of cancer with no treatment. This is the third time she's gotten the painful diagnosis in her short life. Because of her condition, she's never been able to simply be a kid.
Not even morphine could take away the pain. It wasn't fair to put her through more chemos and put her through more pain.
Aria's parents were faced with a gut-wrenching decision: subject their daughter through that pain with no end in sight, or give her an escape from the chemo, the operations, the transplants, and let her live her final days comfortably. They chose the latter. Aria is on hospice with less than 6 months to live.
It's a heartbreaking story. They had asked us that we wanted to put together a fundraiser.
This story touches everyone who hears it, including the nonprofit organization Hero Watch. Today, the organization threw Aria a party for the holidays she might not get to experience ever again.
I thought about giving her some memories, and really her family, some more memories before she's gone.
No, we thought it was just going to be just like something simple, small family and friends.
A couple weeks back, she wasn't allowed to be around this many people. Now, she's giving everybody hugs and high fives.
Aria and more than 500 guests are celebrating Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, and her birthday. It's a lot more exciting than the Play-Doh she's used to. And a meaningful day her family can treasure when she's no longer here. Savannah Louie, KENS 5, Eyewitness News.
Well, if you would like to donate to Aria and her family, you can do so online. The website is herowatch.org. Notate donation to Aria. Donations will help the family with any expenses they need.